Coming off of Brian Michael Bendis's very long run of Avengers series, remember he gave us New Avengers, Mighty Avengers, Dark Avengers, another New Avengers, and he really owned the space of Avengers for a long time. So what do you do? Well, you launch Uncanny Avengers with Rick Remender, and then you go right into Jonathan Hickman. So let's see how this goes. Hey everybody, this is Perch. This started the Jonathan Hickman era of the Avengers, which was big concept. It was really building off of Fantastic Four. And in fact, if you'd been reading his Fantastic Four, you have a pretty good sense of what's going on and what you're in for. And if you hadn't been reading Fantastic Four, a lot of the concepts here probably made absolutely no sense. This accelerated far beyond kind of the more reality TV version of the Avengers that Bendis had really been doing, where you had characters, the lots of quips, kind of a Joss Whedon light kind of feel. Hickman's Avengers was could not be more of a 180. That doesn't necessarily mean it was better. It really depends on what you as a fan and a reader like. But it was definitely a dramatic tonal shift. And at this point, the Avengers franchise was very strange, because what was going on is you had Bendis, who had just come off of, like I said, a very long, very established run where he really ruled all things Avengers, how they talked, how they acted. And it while not the same, you could at least kind of squint and see a lot of what you were getting in the movies during that time. It did have that kind of Joss Whedon, quippy MCU type feel. Then Rick Remender comes in to pick up the pieces from AVX, the Avengers versus X-Men, to this Unity Squad. And Remender immediately goes into a world where the Red Skull is going to plant Charles Xavier's dead brain into his own head. Archangel's kind of bastard children, twins, who were kidnapped by Ahab, are going to summon a Celestial to blow up the planet and put the mutants on another world. And Havoc gets married and has a kid with a Wasp. And I mean, it's just all over the place there. And then simultaneously, you have a Hickman comes in, and Hickman is really, his mission is to do a couple things. First, the Avengers are the core of the universe. They're going to be a really large team with tons of members, and they're not going to be a 6-person team. It's going to be a huge team. And he starts it with a core of Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, the Hulk, and Thor. Go figure. That was who was in the movies. But very rapidly, he's going to shift to brand new villains, brand new threat, and ultimately, the biggest threat of them all, the multiverse is colliding. You have the New Avengers come in, which is picking up the pieces from Illuminati, and you have Thanos come into the picture. Again, a lot of Hickman's ideas were incorporated into the Avengers movie, from the Black Order to Thanos to kind of a lot of what he was after. But at the same time, Hickman had a David Lynch kind of quality to him, where it was very dense reading, a lot of moving parts, a lot that you would have had to have read Secret Avengers, Secret Warriors that he did, his Shield series, or Fantastic Four, to really kind of rock what he was up to. So the comic opens with classic Hickman infographic of circles and charts and everything, which he was, he's carried on with data sheets in his X-Men work. But we're looking, kind of a bunch of big concepts. The spark that lighted the fire. We're seeing scenes of Hyperion. We're seeing scenes of Smasher. We're seeing this Ex Nihilo, who is this brand new character who's terraforming Mars, kind of this alien creature. We see a hint toward Infinity that is coming later, and the rise of the Inhumans through the Inhuman bomb that would go out, the Terrigen Mist around the planet. And then, of course, the fall, which is the planets colliding, the schism that would happen within Captain America and Iron Man, and so on. So he's highlighting storylines that would not play out for 3 years or more here. But the core concept that comes across is, like most Avengers stories, the idea of we need some team members. We need to, have an Avengers team. So we get Tony Stark in his lab, and his idea, he wakes up Captain America. Why does he have the keys to Captain America's room? I don't know. Who knows? But Captain America is struggling a little bit, because this issue is set after the sequence in New Avengers, where basically The Illuminati plus Captain America discover that there are other planets and that the realities are going to collide into each other, thereby ending all life as we know it. And they've got to stop them. And the way to do it is you have to kind of blow up the other world. So this first mission, Captain America gets the Infinity Gauntlet and manages to repel it, but loses the Gauntlet and stones in the process. This causes Captain America to say we have to find a solution. Tony Stark, the pragmatist, is saying, no, we're gonna have to ultimately kind of get to killing worlds. Nobody wants to admit that, and they wind up mind wiping Captain America. So this issue is set after those events, and he's having kind of bad dreams, haunting of the fact that he knows something nefarious, kind of deep in his soul, has happened, but he doesn't know what it is. At this point, the friendship and the bond between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers is very tight, but it's going to crumble, and that's really what Jonathan Hickman's story is about these moral compromises of heroes. Now, I want to interject here and say that a lot of people were turned off by his Avengers because of this reason, because it was about, heroes kind of rising to the occasion, but it was also about heroes finding their bottom. And that's, you see a lot of people from Reed Richards to Tony Stark to even Captain America who are forced to make dark decisions that really go against who they are as characters. So Tony Stark goes to Steve and says, we have to get bigger. Basically, we need a bigger Avengers. And part of this is Tony knows that, things are going to get very, very bad. So, by the way, Jerome Opina is doing the artwork here. I'm a huge fan of him from when he worked on X-Force with Rick Remender. I think he does really scratchy and nice artwork. It's unique. It's stylistic. I think he does amazing work. But we move on to Mars a month later, and we see Ex Nihilo and kind of his group. The Alf, the Builder. These are all characters that would be playing big with infinity and kind of this collapsing of the world. So he is terraforming Mars, and he's starting to, basically build creatures there, raise the world, change things. And they're talking about, maybe they have to go to Earth, and they're going to have to do some terraforming there. They're basically going to save the world from itself. They're going to they don't want to be a destroyer world. They want to build them, but in building them, they're basically going to have to, wipe out big parts of Earth. So the Avengers arrive on the scene. They just took the car and jetted on over to old Mars, and they've got the same old core team, the team that we're used to from the movies. And they arrive here basically, and they find that Mars is being terraforming, and they're off to go engage, and they're immediately just knocked out. They are, Ex Nihilo makes short work of this. Basically they have this argument of you bring violence to us, and they mind wipe, they take over the Hulk. The Hulk then immediately starts fighting Thor. So there's aspects, by the way, of this issue where it seems and is very, very different from Avengers issue in the past. That said, it has the same beats. It has the same, the Hulk is used as a weapon against Thor. We get that fight. So Hickman is doing a lot of things that are very subtle here that you might not recognize at first glance, but he is paying homage to the very first Avengers. He's also recognizing the movies and their influence, and he's bringing some sci-fi elements in as well. What's really nice, what I did like about this, and ultimately why I am a fan of Jonathan Hickman, is that he does, the talk, the dialogue from Hulk, from Thor, from Black Widow, from Hawkeye, everything it sounds right. It sounds like how the characters actually are. Now, in time, some people, by the same token, we see these characters kind of driven lower. And you compare actually what Hickman was doing with the Avengers here of kind of dragging them down, having a lot of these characters find new depths to which they will sink. And it's very reminiscent of what Tom King was trying to do with Batman and kind of bringing him down as well. The difference here is that Hickman always provides this kind of glimmer of hope. The characters are brought down, and you watch them struggle, and you struggle with them, but you never lose sight of kind of the heroic ideal that they're going for. And I think that was a mistake. This isn't a review about Batman, but if you compare kind of what's happening here, this was an era where a lot of comics were deconstructing their heroes, and this is no exception. Over in Remender's Uncanny Uncanny Avengers, too many titles. Over in that title, he's basically showing what happens when characters don't work together, that the world goes wrong, that their enemies are able to beat them because the cracks are there, that unity, the lack of unity is a problem. But you see that if they can overcome that, they will be victorious, that they need to become better. They need to be heroic, and they do, and they accomplish, and you have a big victory. Same thing is true with Hickman's Avengers. The Infinity event, which is kind of an event, but it was this Thanos invasion and other things. You got this victory. You have a couple issues where the Avengers kind of lead the universe, where they actually are inspiring, and so even when they're down low and they're being deconstructed, they're being pushed downward, it shows the swing back up. Even Secret Wars ended on an optimistic tone, the Fantastic Four repopulating the universe. So a lot of what you see, I just interrupt this comic here, of that it is Hickman bringing things down and taking them back up, or showing the route to which these heroes need to rebuild, regain, and become powerful again. And that is the nature of being a hero. That is what this series is about. And it mirrors a lot of what the Avengers in '63 was also about. So, big fight. Captain America refuses to yield. They put Captain America, back into the jet. They keep the rest of the Avengers on Mars. They dump, Captain America basically, back down. The heroes were found wanting, and the other Avengers are trapped on Mars. And Captain America mirrors back. We have to get bigger. We have to do more. So he's going to wake the world, whether it's Smasher, whether it's the Hyperion. We say we're going to assemble and we're going to save the world. New Captain Universe, people like Captain Marvel, Spider-Woman. The one notable part about Hickman's Avengers, as they grow and as they bring in new team members, and as they go to kind of save the world, you get some small characters, you get some big characters. Everybody really does get a moment in the sun where they get to shine and kind of prove that they are heroes, and they feel very natural to themselves. I would argue that the Captain Marvel growth during Hickman's Avengers time was probably the most powerful to building the character and making her a hero than what was going on in her own title. And so it's an interesting. I always view Hickman's work as somewhat inspiring, because when you read the whole run, it ends with heroes overcoming these flaws, overcoming their darkest moments, and being heroes. And I think that's the powerful nature of what these comics should be. And so I think I always look at his work as optimistic, but a lot of people who kind of gave up mid-run or remember the beginnings just remember him tearing the characters down. So very different Avengers era, and we certainly are getting the same how we get Avengers World, we get all these other Avengers titles throughout all this, but definitely it was a new style. It either worked for you, it didn't, but it definitely altered the Avengers universe. So what I guess is really powerful here is if you look at kind of the Avengers, you had the original in '63, you had it grow, you had the brief Heroes Reborn world, which was just kind of a brief diversion. And it gets back with the Busiek and Perez comic, which really did feel like an extension of the Avengers. It didn't feel like a new era. It was good. It just felt like it did very much feel like continuing the Avengers spirit. Bendis's time on Avengers, starting with the Deconstructed and then moving into the titles he did, really felt like a shift. Like we took a right turn, and now it's a different type of Avengers. It went along for several years, and then Hickman, Remender was doing his thing with Uncanny Avengers, but it was Hickman's run that then took it in another 90-degree direction. It brought a new Avengers run, and its Avengers run we're kind of still in. The stuff we'll get to later with Mark Waid or with Jason Aaron, they've done different spins on the Avengers, but it was not the abrupt kind of stylistic left turn that Bendis gave and then Hickman gave. But we'll get into those as we go. Did you like this issue? Did you like Hickman's run? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think of all this. Like, subscribe, introduce to a friend. I'm really enjoying. These aren't the biggest. I'm not making the biggest hits off any of these Avengers review video, but I found it a fascinating history lesson. I'm going through all this, so I hope you do too. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer it. And thanks for listening.